We got some of the best equipment out there that's going right now. Tractors, everything. We got the best that you probably can. It's not new, but it's the best it can be. Being there, working every day with those guys, right side by side with them, operating and working with them, and we maintain, keep an eye on everything. And we're in every district. We've probably cut our gravel road system, probably about 80% since 2002, whenever it was I took office. We've probably cut our gravel roads down about 80% since then. So everything we're doing like that, all the things we can do and we're saving equipment every day like that by fixing gravel roads and blacktopping. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blevins. We'll also begin with you with our third and final question, if you please. Your question, Mr. Blevins. Why are you interested in the job you seek, and what makes you uniquely qualified to do this job?
Well, since my days in high school, I've had this on my mind to try to get this job and do a good job at it. So for 44 years now, I've been doing this type of work every day. I mean, I've done work for some of you people sitting here right now. So, for 44 years, I've hung on to this dream, try to get this job and do the best I can. And I'm experienced, trucks, equipment, building roads. I'm not talking about log roads or driveways. I'm talking about roads that move the people, move progress, and move products up and down the road. That's what we're doing. That's where we're fixing these roads that way. My experience of 44 years, my dedication, and most of all, the one will be the best supervisor we've ever had here, and that's what we've tried to work it out there. I hope you people have seen that. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Our next question number 3, final question goes to Mr. Evans, Jeff Evans. Jeff, your question. Why are you interested in the job you seek, and what makes you uniquely qualified to do this job?
I want to serve Fentress County as road superintendent because I think the primary responsibility is maintenance and upgrade of county roads. I will budget in a way that makes our tax dollars go further by directing funds toward upgrading and maintaining only official county roads. This, combined with spending other highway department funds in a way that solely benefits Fentress County, will make a huge difference in the capability of the highway department to best serve all residents of Fentress County. Both my experience as a business owner and previous employment with the highway department has given me the knowledge and ability to follow a budget, the necessary skills to communicate with the public, manage a work crew, including laborers and office personnel, and extensive knowledge of operating equipment and maintenance. Once again, thank you all for a new attitude and new asphalt. Vote Evans August the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Third and final question now going to Mr. Scott Norris, candidate for road superintendent. Scott, your question. Why are you interested in the job you seek, and what makes you uniquely qualified to do this job?
I thought about this for several years. When I was young, my grandpa Fallbush ran a road grader for Dooley Hood. He was the road supervisor at that time. Since that time, I've always enjoyed working with equipment, whether on the farm or in my Papa Narcissus sawmill and logging business. As a former employee several years ago with the Fentress County Highway Department, or in running my own excavating business for the last 15 years. I've always loved working with the public, and a few years ago I had a number of people ask me to run for this position, but I wasn't ready at that time. Last year I started having people ask me again to run for it. After a lot of discussions with my wife and daughter, as well as many voters all over the county, I decided to run. I believe I'm qualified to serve as your road supervisor because over the last 15 years, I've owned and operated my own excavating business. I've worked for people in every community in our county as well as in several of the surrounding counties. Before running my own business, I worked for the Fentress County Highway Department on our county roads. I also know what it's like to make tough budget decisions. I've had to make them all my life in business and personal life, just like a lot of you do every day. Most importantly, I want to be your next road supervisor to serve the voters of Fentress County. I would appreciate your vote and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Our third and final question going to Mr. David Slavin. David, your question. Why are you interested in the job you seek, and what makes you uniquely qualified to do this job?
I'm seeking this office because I know I can make a difference for the people and the roads that they live on. I want to build better roads for Fentress County, have the experience, and I'm very well qualified for this office. I know how to operate and maintain many different types of equipment, and I've been doing it my whole life. I've been in the excavating business myself for 15 years, and I know how to run a company on a budget. I'm certified through the EPA for ground erosion, and I know the laws. I understand emergency situations and what to do. I will be available and dedicated during these times. I've built roads from dirt to gravel, paving, and all types of maintenance. I have 22 plus years in excavating and road maintenance. I've worked well with utility companies and the public, and I want to be there to help the people. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Slavin. Thank you, gentlemen, for participating in our Meet Your Candidate Forum, and God bless.
Thank you, candidates. At this time, we'd ask all candidates for county executive to make their way to the tables. And again, we'll take another 5-minute break. I'd like to introduce our candidates for county executive, Mr. David Beatty, Mr. Larry Cooper, Mr. Michael Cross, Ms. Darlene Davis, Mr. Jimmy Johnson, Mr. Thomas Robertson, and Mr. Ricky Young. Mr. Bass.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, candidates, for participating in our Meet Your Candidate Forum today. We appreciate you being here this afternoon. Our first question goes to David Beatty, County Executive in the August 5th election. Mr. Beatty, your question. How do you plan to increase the economic opportunities for the citizens of Fentress County? Give us some details of plans, specific markets, etc.
I will use my experience to find jobs for Fentress County. I served as your county executive in 1998 through 2002, and under my leadership, we were successful. 3 new industries located here, 7 miles of 127 4-lane was built. We finished the East Industrial Park with a $1 million grant from EDA. We now must finish the Clark Range Industrial Park, or it will go back to the previous owner of the land as recorded in the deed. For the last 2 years, I attended the Good Jobs, Green Jobs National Conference in Washington, D.C., working with over 3,000 people to find ways to create green jobs. I recently traveled across the state of Tennessee touring green job sites. Tennessee is recruiting green jobs, and many companies have already located here. I want Fentress County to get its share. I believe we now have an opportunity like we have never had before because funds are in the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act to create green jobs. Green-collar jobs pay a living wage. Jobs like building solar panels, wind turbines, geothermal, biofuels, weatherization products, etc. This also creates construction and service jobs. These products must be made in the USA and the jobs kept in the USA. Manufacturing has always been the core of the U.S. economy. If we don't get it back, we are in deep trouble. Some companies are now coming back. Because Fentress County has a high poverty rate, we get priority for grants, but we have to go after them. With your help, we will get our part. I will be there. While we are doing this, we must work hard to keep the companies we presently have and promote tourism at a higher level. If we are to thrive and prosper, we must create more alternative energy. We must stop buying foreign oil from countries that want to destroy our way of life.
Thank you, Mr. Beatty. Our next candidate, Mr. Larry Cooper, County Executive. Mr. Cooper, your question. How do you plan to increase the economic opportunities for the citizens of Fentress County? Give us a few details, specific markets, etc.
Thank you, Turt. First of all, I'd like to wish Happy Father's Day to all the fathers here today for coming out and listening to us. I think one of the greatest economic opportunities are with existing and potential small businesses here in Fentress County. I will work with these businesses to find sources of capital and on job training sources. One of the sources for capital program is for 3-star certified. If a small business in the county needs to update their heating and cooling system, Since we are a three-star certified county, you can potentially apply for a loan, which could be at 0% interest. I know some small businesses struggle to come up with the money to update their businesses. One of the other things I'd like to do is several years ago they passed, or not several years ago, but a few years ago they passed a tax freeze for senior citizens. The senior citizens in the county are on a fixed income. We need to do what we can to freeze their property tax. They don't need to worry about losing their homes when they get older. We need to do what we can to help them out. If elected, I will work closely with the Chamber of Commerce to ensure that the tourism in this county continues to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper, for your answer. Our next candidate, Mr. J. Michael Cross, candidate for County Executive. Mr. Cross, your question. How do you plan to increase the economic opportunities for the citizens of Fentress County? Give us some details, specific markets, etc.
My plan is a three-prong approach. As I've stated throughout my campaign, we must use every resource at our disposal. First, we must continue to put pressure on our state and federal officials to see that the Highway 127 project from Crossville to from I-40 to Jamestown is completed and not 40 years from now. Secondly, we must try to bring in new industry. We must focus on small, reliable companies that provide decent pay and decent benefits. One of the first things that I'll do is put together a recruitment team. And that team will consist of local business owners that will work with me, the Chamber of Commerce, and the ID Board to see that this happens. This team will focus on three areas of job recruitments, utilizing our existing resources and our strengths. In searching for new jobs, though, we cannot forget our local businesses and industries. We must work equally as hard to assist them so that they can continue to provide, grow and prosper and provide new jobs. Third, I think we need to take advantage of our tourism opportunities. There are very few counties in this country that can say that they border a national park. We have one of the richest varieties of scenic and natural areas anywhere in the country, and we've done very little to tap that resource. According to the University of Tennessee, in 2008, almost $11 million was spent in Fentress County directly related to tourism, again, with little or no effort on our part. Imagine what that number could be if we had put together an aggressive program. Tourism pays off twofold. It's relatively free money, and it creates new jobs. Friends, there's only one of me, and to accomplish any of these goals, I need your help. We must stand united and as a team. Let's make these goals a daily priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Our next candidate, Ms. Darlene Mundy Davis, candidate for County Executive. Ms. Davis, your question. How do you plan to increase the economic opportunities for the citizens of Fentress County? Give us a few details, plans, etc.
Well, for those of you that don't know me, I can assure you that I am a very hard worker. And as your county executive, I will work with the county commission and others to find solutions to our problems. We have had tough times in the past, and we're going to have tough times here in the future. I want the opportunity to use the contacts I have across the state of Tennessee, outside of the state, and those contacts are in the political, government, business, educational, and many other fields. I know who to see, and I know what to say. We need to work hard at increasing the economic opportunity for the people of Fentress County. It will be advantageous for us to examine where we have been in the past, where we are at today, and what direction we want Fentress County to go in. And yes, we need to look at green-collar jobs. We must continue to build a good relationship with rural economic development and any other state and federal agency that can assist us and search for those grants. We must continue to market Fentress County through tourism as a place to come and visit, as well as a great place to live. Every person that comes to visit Fentress County is going to spend money here. Every person that comes to live here, buy property, build a house, is going to have to pay taxes. And yes, we must go after businesses that are compatible to our county, whether they work 5, 10, 50, 100 or more. And just maybe, there are some local Fentress Countyans that are willing to step up and invest in other Fentress Countyans to give basic help in starting a business locally. Fentress Countyans investing in Fentress Countyans for the future of Fentress County. What a great idea. But it takes hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, for your answer. Our next contestant, Mr. Jimmy Johnson, candidate for county executive in the August 5th election. Mr. Johnson, your question. How do you plan to increase the economic opportunities for the citizens of Fentress County? Give us details, please.
Turk, thank you very much. My plan would be just hard work, ask questions, and seek the answers. We don't need to sit back and let our other counties pick up a lot of the work that we're getting. A lot of the, I say for Overton County, they have a hydroaquatic plant down there. A lot of water used down there. Work with our Chamber of Commerce, but first we need to stabilize what businesses that we do have here in the county. We need to see what we can do to help them, see what we can do to encourage them, work with our chamber, see if there's any in our big cities that are around us, Nashville, Knoxville, outside the state, the plant in Chattanooga that's come in. If there's any offshoots, anything small that could come here, not basically depend on so much trucking coming in here because of the roads. You're not going to get a lot of people to truck stuff in here where they can truck it shorter. Go with something that we can use. Salina, they just got an answering service down there. They're working 100 people. Just something that we can, if we can just dig and find. The day's not going to be too long. The night's not going to be too short that I won't work for each and every one in Fentress County. And as far as educational-wise, support all of our technical schools and see if we can improve them, that our students that are here that are leaving Fentress County, if there could be just some reason that they could stay here as far as some technical, some vocational class. But just seek and work and find what we can and just to help each other and we'll grow. As I've said from the start, it's working together. It's not an I thing. It's not a me thing. We've got to work together to get it all accomplished, and that's what I go by, and that's what we'll go by when we're elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your answer. Our next contestant, Mr. Thomas D. Robinson, Sr. Thomas, your question. How do you plan to increase the economic opportunities for the citizens of Fentress County? Give us a few details, please.
I was afraid she was going to blow that horn again. Thank you, first of all, for the opportunity, you all being here. I'm probably the least known candidate of all, but I do have a vision. We are probably in the worst economic time in my life. I know the 70s were bad. I'm not sure that this is probably real close, if not worse. But I have an idea. Sergeant York believed in education. I believe in education. I am convinced that if we bring a university into this area, it will spur economic development beyond our wildest imagination. Well, you say, well, how? It's a university. Well, when you bring a university in, you have jobs that are custodial. You have maintenance jobs. You have cafeteria workers. You have people in the office that are administrators and business people. You have professionals that are actually degreed professionals teaching the university. Then you're revamping the mindset of Fentress County. You're moving away from a poverty area, which we are. I mean, we have to face it, that's what we are, up to a higher standard of living. Therefore, when our kids go to college, like my 20-year-old that drives to Tech, he won't have to drive an hour and a half to go to school. He can stay right here. The job opportunities from there will spread. We'll develop professional jobs within the area stemming from the hub of the major university. You'll have architects move in. You'll have engineers. We will step up a level, and that's what I think we need here. And I would really appreciate your help and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Our next contestant, Mr. Ricky Thurman Young, candidate for county executive. Mr. Young, your question. How do you plan to increase the economic opportunities for the citizens of Fentress County? Give details, please.
All right. Glad that horn works there. On May 25, 1961, President John F. Kennedy asked America for a date with destiny to put a man on the moon and return him safely before the end of the century. Back in the 60s, Americans set a then thought of impossible goal and achieved it. What I'm proposing for the residents of Fentress County is not impossible, but it will be hard fought. In my March 31st announcement, I stated there were 3 areas that we must focus on to increase economic opportunities for this county. That was tourism, industry, and farming. With tourism, we can receive an immediate return on our investment from increased advertising. While driving home from work on Thursday while listening to WDEB, I heard an advertisement for Northwest Florida's beaches. I say turn around and spare a place, so let's buy some advertising time in Florida and tell them to feel the excitement in Fentress County, Tennessee on a challenging ATV trail or a horseback ride in our mountains. To caveat that, our law enforcement and judicial system must support our efforts to rebuild our economy by making our area a drug-free, family-friendly, safe environment for tourism. If they enact a hard line in the fight against illegal activities, we will be able to use their proactive actions as an advertising endorsement to draw more tourism to our safe, drug-free, scenic, and recreational community. Now, a project I believe that will provide substantial economic opportunities that I want to see pushed through is the railroad into and through Clark Range. That one project will provide jobs and tens of millions of dollars to our economy. Now, let's put in perspective why this is a good project for the people of Fentress County. Conservatively thinking, there are approximately 12 to 1,400 people hitting the crossroads at Highway 127 and 62 each day for work outside Fentress County. If 1,200 people spend $250 per paycheck, that's every 2 weeks, on gas, groceries, or other necessities outside the county because it is more convenient for them, that comes to $7,800,000 of lost revenue annually that should have been spent in our county. Done.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for your answer. Since we're already at your table, please allow us to begin at your table with our second question. Your question. In light of the economic crisis facing our county, our state, and our community, what budget cuts or changes would you make when it becomes necessary? For example, if York Institute loses state funding.
That's a loaded question right there. The real question should be what budget cuts or changes are the people willing to recommend and accept should the need arise. Now, as a business executive at multiple manufacturing plants, one of the first things I did was review the profit and loss, the P&L statement of that organization. It is important that you understand it was my responsibility to change the direction of that company and make the company financially sound as I streamlined their operations. Sometimes reorganization called for a reduction in staff. Other times it required the additional hiring of new faces to handle the increased workload. It is important that you know I will manage the county assets the same way I did businesses, and that is this. I will manage your tax dollars as if you were a stockholder in the company. After all, this is your county. Now, we have options if York loses its funding. The real question is, do we resign ourselves to the fact that it's going to happen, or do we fight in an attempt to keep state funding? Either way, the stresses involved surrounding this issue are great. Personally, I feel the people of Fentress County must make the decision as to how to handle this transition, as it is not mine alone to make. The current state of opinion from recent radio announcements, I get the distinct impression that funding from the state is already a lost cause. Yet I believe negotiations with the new governor and the new administration can relieve some tension and buy us a few more years with the show of diplomacy and respect. It should be important to note that at least one candidate for governor has pledged full support to keep York State funded. So if that individual wins the governor's office, I have a full expectation he will follow through on that promise. Still, we must educate our youth while providing them with information about the professional characteristics and actions necessary to be successful in the labor market. Analyses indicate that students participating in work-based vocational programs have higher odds of graduating high school and have higher incomes in after high school. I propose that we stay current in emerging technologies, global, and upgrade the curriculum for our ever-changing labor market. We must implement a program with local industries.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Our next question goes to Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, your question, second question, please. In light of the economic crisis facing our county, our state, and our community, what budget cuts or changes would you make when it becomes necessary? For example, if the York Institute loses its funding.
Ricky's right. That is a loaded question. First of all, let me clarify a misconception here. The county executive can't make a budget cut. The finance department does that. Your county commissioners are the ones who vote on that. We can recommend it. We can review the budget, which we should do. As we're part of running the county, that's part of our job, to overlook the budget and see if there is waste going on somewhere. In light of that, I think the main question here is everybody's concern is about York. I'm a businessman. That's all I know how to do. I own a business. I have for 20 of the last 30 years I've been working. Part of being a businessman is looking at budgets, looking at market environments, looking at seeing what's the best way to make the best out of a bad situation or a good situation. I may lose some votes, but I'll just tell you like I see it. If we do have to refund York ourselves, we have two options, and that's it. One is we raise property tax. We'll probably have to raise it $100 to $200 per person or per property owner, more than likely. We either do that or we combine the two schools into one. And I know nobody wants to hear that. We have 250 people going to Clark Range. We have 600 and something at York. You combine them. You do that, you've pretty much solved your budget problem. That is the county's decision. That's not something that I will push one way or the other without your all's input. You all are your children are going there. But I promise you, I will lay it out. I won't hide it. I'll tell you, this is what it's going to be. It's going to cost you this if we do this. It's going to cost you this if we don't. That's the way I view it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Next question, number 2, goes to Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, your question. In light of the economic crisis facing our county, our state, and our community, what budget cuts or changes would you make when it becomes necessary? For example, if the York Institute loses its funding.
Well, if you have to go in and make the budget cuts, you would work with all your departments and see what they could afford to lose out of their budget to keep things running smooth. Another possibility, of course, when they come through, the state does, maybe this year, I'm not sure this coming year, if they reappraise our property, it'll probably be a higher rate, okay? We can't do it the first year, but the second year, we could go in there and we could take so much, say a penny or 2 cents or a nickel. We could say, we're going to put this right here into a rainy day fund, which was done before with the county, I believe, under another administration. And just have that and let it lay over here. Because I believe each penny brings in like $28,000 or something a year. But if you take that and leave it for a rainy day fund, you're going to have a little bit over there. If something happens, you're going to have a little bit of money there to allocated that you can use. Another thing, it's like a man, you're going into this budget, some of us are kind of like closed eyes on it, of course, because we've not seen it yet, but it would be like a man going into the woods cutting timber. You go in there, you don't go in there and take your saw and start cutting everything there is to cut right off the bat. You go in there and you look at your situation, you see what needs to be cut, and you take down what would help the most to get the job done. And as far as York Institute, we better hope that it doesn't come back. We've got 2 years extension here. We need to get the people in line as far as local and state and the governor, and go down and work with them and say, hey, let's see if we can get something done on this where we can keep it intact, that the state takes care of it if there's any way possible to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Our next question from Ms. Darlene Mundy Davis. Darlene, your question. In light of the economic crisis facing our county, our state, and our community, what budget cuts or changes would you make when it becomes necessary? For example, if the York Institute loses its funding.
Well, hopefully it won't come to that, but it is something that we are going to have to keep in the back of our minds at all times. And if I understand it correctly, York Institute has been put in the recurring budget, which means it is not looked at every year. But of course, when a new governor comes in, they will look at the budget. This is America. We get up in the morning, we go to work, and we solve our problems. So this is a problem we're going to have to face. If so, York Institute will fall under the local county school system. Therefore, our superintendent of schools will take a look at how York Institute and Fentress County's budgets can be streamlined down to work effectively without affecting the quality of education for all the students. The state sends X amount of dollars per student to our county, so the dollars are not quite as large of an amount that the county will have to come up with, and then the superintendent of schools will bring his conclusions to the county commission. We should be cautious in presenting budget cuts and causing unnecessary panic. We will need to take into consideration the current budget and obligations of the county, examine the current state of our industry. Then the county commission will have some hard decisions to make and on how to spend our money. Personally, I would rather not cut any jobs since that is what we need most here. All county entities and departments will have to take a look at their budgets and see where they might trim their budgets to enable them to make their offices and departments continue to work effectively and not hurt their quality of services to the people. I am sure the county commission will look very seriously at every issue and make good common sense decisions.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, for your comments. Our next question goes to Mr. J. Michael Cross, candidate for county executive. Mr. Cross, your second question. In light of the economic crisis facing our county, our state, and our community, what budget cuts or changes would you make when it becomes necessary? For example, if York Institute loses its funding.
First of all, in regards to York Institute, I will do everything in my power to see that York never loses state funding. I will work very closely with the York Institute administration, our state representative, state senator, as well as other state and legislative leaders from across the state to be certain that everyone understands that York Institute is not, as Governor Bredesen's staff referred to, just another high school. That York Institute is a rich part of our state's heritage where our youth have a unique opportunity to learn and grow. My 30 years as a teacher and an administrator have given me an intimate knowledge of the education system and its special needs. In the event that the state should cut funding, my first priority will be to see that the loss of funding has absolutely no negative effect on the quality of education of the young people in Fentress County. Having said that, the loss of funding would potentially place an incredible financial burden on Fentress County. For any candidate to point out specific areas to make cuts or changes would be pure speculation and probably a mistake. Without knowing all the circumstances and the numbers, without input from the County Commission, Fentress County School Board, the York Institute administration and faculty, and community leaders, suggesting changes or cuts would be presumptive and careless. I've been on the County Commission for 8 years. My voting record is clear. I've tried to assure that everyone in this county receives the best of all our county services, all the while working diligently to see that our tax rate stays as low as possible and be the voice of reason for you, the citizens of Fentress County. Let's elect someone with education, with experience, with knowledge, and ensure that our rich heritage continues.
Thank you, Mr. Cross, for your comments. Our next question goes to Mr. Larry Cooper, candidate for county executive in the August 5th general election. Mr. Cooper, your question. In light of the economic crisis facing our county, our state, and our community, what budget cuts or changes would you make when it becomes necessary? For example, if York Institute loses its state funding.
I believe one of the biggest issues will be if the York Institute is returned to Fentress County. I think the county executive needs to work with the commission, the director of schools, the Board of Education, superintendent of YEI, decide where some possible cuts can be made. We need to look at the county as a whole every year, balance the services that we provide to the citizens for the funds available. I've worked closely with Senator Yeager, Representative Wendell on keeping YEI state funding. I was the only county executive candidate that made several trips to Nashville for this reason. I think working together we can make Fentress County a better place for our children and their futures.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Our next question goes to Mr. David Beatty. David, your question, second question. In light of the economic crisis facing our county, our state, and our community, what budget cuts or changes would you make when it becomes necessary? For example, if the York Institute loses its state funding.
The first thing I would want to do is meet with all elected officials and cut the waste and excessive spending out of the budget. In the past 8 years, the budget has increased over 50%. Some parts have doubled, some have tripled. I will lead by example and make cuts in the county executive office first. We will start an aggressive energy conservation program, in some cases, we can save 50% on energy costs. If the county commission decides to abolish the finance department and turn finance back over to the elected officials that are already getting paid to do it, this could save the county about $200,000 per year. I can manage the county general and the solid waste funds like I did before at no extra cost to the taxpayers and balance the budget. We must start working September 1 with the new state government to find ways to keep York Institute a state-run high school. I believe it can be done. If we are not successful at this, then the state and federal government still have to fund approximately 80% of the school anyway, like the rest. York Institute would have to then be run like the rest of the county schools. Some positions and programs would likely be cut. The county would have to fund all above the 80%. We should do everything possible to cut waste and excessive spending before we ever even think about any tax increase to fund any department. Then if it becomes clear more funds are necessary, I would want to let the people of Fentress County decide on a referendum in an election how they want to raise these funds.
Thank you, Mr. Beatty, for your comments. Since we're already at your table, shall we begin with our third and final question? Your question, Mr. Beatty. Why are you interested in the job you seek, and what makes you uniquely qualified to do this job?
I have been in business here over 30 years and served as county executive. Under my leadership, we found ways to fund and build the new South Fentress School. I cast the deciding vote to build it. The vote broke a tied vote. We were able to build the new health department and DHS office, both paid for with state funds without a tax increase. I am a certified public administrator and industrial recruiter. I also served as president of the Fentress County Chamber of Commerce in 1986 and was on the board of directors before that. I have always worked to protect our environment. I chair the Green Collar Jobs Committee for statewide organizing for community empowerment. We search for ways to bring good jobs to rural counties and distressed areas. I also served 2 terms on their board of directors and finance committee. All my life, I have seen parents raise their children here. They make sure they get an education, and then most of them have to move away to make a living. This is just not right. During my lifetime, I would like to see this change for our children and grandchildren. They are the future. My commitment to you is with your help, we will build a better future for everyone. I ask for your vote and support, and have a lot to say in a short time to say it. Sorry about the horn, but we've got a lot of work to do in a short time to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beatty, for your comments. Our next question, third and final question, goes to Mr. Larry Cooper. Larry, your question. Why are you interested in the job you seek, and what makes you uniquely qualified to do this job?
First of all, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I want to make sure that she and all of our children have a future here in Fentress County. I've worked closely with every county office throughout the county. I think this will help me step into this office on day one and start to work. Some of my background, prior to this county commission, I was on the Allard City Council for 6 years. I've been a commissioner for the 5th District for the past 8 years, which for the past 4 years I've been chairman of the board. I've served the public for the past 21 years on the Allard Fire Department. I believe this has been my training ground preparing me for this position. Through the experiences, I've learned firsthand